Well, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We're going to be in our fourth excerpt in the tidbits from the Word in the book of Genesis. And we are in chapter 2 and verse 7. And we just got done talking about God forming man and about man being a living body, but his living soul was not a living soul until God breathed the breath of life in him. Well, that's the same thing we have today. We have men and women, boys and girls running around today who are sold out to the devil, born in the flesh, and never have given their life to God. Therefore, they're living dead folks, because until they get the life of God in their life, the life they're living is going to be headed for hell forever. And so we have to give our life to God. God calls every man in his own way. I've had so many people say to me, well, what about the Bohemian or the thief, the man over in Africa, the man somewhere in the wilderness? Well, we got him right here in the United States. God made a way that every single solitary person in the United States could hear the word, and he also made a way that every man in the jungle could hear the word. Well, you say, oh, I don't see it. Well, you and I don't see very clearly. We don't see like God sees, and God sees a man from the heart, inside out, and God said he had 7,000 people over there in Nineveh that didn't know their left hand from their right hand. They couldn't read, they couldn't write, they were ignorant, but he said not near one of them had bowed their knee to Baal. He said, I got 7,000 people over there have not bowed their knee to Baal. Now, God looks different than you and I look. You probably could have went in there to Nineveh, that big city, bigger than Atlanta, and walked through it and not found one of those people. You know why? You didn't know how to look. And I don't know how to look. And by the way, it is not our duty to look. Our duty is to do what God put us to do in the corner that we're in the place that we're in the seat that we're in the business we're in the proper place. We're not left here to be judges. We're left here to be spread the word. We're left here to be witnesses. We're left here to be ambassadors. We're left here to be prophets. We're left here to prophesy what this word says, not add to it or take away from it, but ask just exactly what it says. How can you prophesy what it says if you don't know? If you don't have a daily Bible study, if you aren't in this book, if you aren't willing to buy a good book with good helps, you're probably not ever going to do anything. You never grow in the Lord, and you'll never be used of the Lord like you could be if you would be. Verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. This was after he made the man. And he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. And the tree of life also was in the midst of the garden. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil were in the midst of the garden. You say, Brother Peter, tell me something about those trees. Can't tell you a thing about them. All I can tell you is they were what God said they were. And I can tell you this, when they ate of it, what God said was going to happen, happened. And a river went out from Eden to water the garden. And from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. And the name of the first was Pison, that is which compassed the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Verse 11 says, if you could find that place of Havilah right now, you would find where all the gold of the world is. That's where the gold is, in that place. And the gold of that land is good. And there is Bedlam, and there is onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is that compassed the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hekel, and that is which goeth toward the east of Assyria, and the fourth river is Euphrates. Now right there we're going to start in verse 14, and we're going to clarify something right here. Get any history book you want, go anywhere you want, start back from every Josephus, anybody, any historian, go back in the history of this earth, and you're going to find 4 or 5 statistics right here, or 15 if you want to dig them out. Statistics that are written right here that have never, not ever changed. There has been no evolution. There has been no change. This was almost 6,000 years ago, and it has never changed. Never changed. Not one iota. All of these things are true. You notice the Euphrates is still Euphrates. You notice that Ethiopia is still Ethiopia. You notice here that Assyria is still Assyria. And you notice that Pison is still Pison. And you notice that these rivers come together. They still all do the same thing. And you notice another thing, that Guyana is still Guyana. You notice that these have not changed. There hasn't been any evolution. 6,000 years with no evolution here. God made it, and there's no evolution. There's no such a thing as evolution. Listen to what God said in 15. And the Lord God took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it. Why did he put the man in the Garden of Eden? To dress it. That means that he put him in there to hone it, to make sure that it grew properly, that it looked good. He had to mow the grass. He had to do the things. And to keep it. Verse 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. In the day you eat of that tree you shall surely die. Now, the man was going to live on in the flesh. The dying that he was going to do was spiritual. When man ate of that tree, he spiritually died. We're going to see that in the next excerpt. Right here, we're going to talk about some things the man was supposed to do, which he was supposed to follow the commandments of God. You and I are to follow the commandments of God. If we know to do good and we do it not, then it is sin to us. If we break the Lord's commandment deliberately and do not, we bring a separation from us and God for a few minutes, and that's like death. You remember when your father said, when I get home tonight, Peter, son, that wood box better be full. And you fooled around all day, and Harry got to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so Dad's going to be here in an hour. It's going to take me an hour and a half just to saw this wood up. By the way, we used to have to put our wood on a cross bench like this and stick it out in the end and take a saw and saw the wood off, and then tote it in the house and put it in the wood box. We burned some 16 cords of winter where I was born in the winter in Maine, and we had to go out, drag that wood home either with a team of horses or however we were doing it at that period of time in our life, and we had to saw it by hand, saw it up, we had to saw it down, saw it off, saw it out, bring it home, then saw it up again. We'd bring it home in big bolts, and then we'd saw it off with the hand saw. I remember going out there with a crosscut, Daddy on the other end saying, son, if you ride that saw one more time, I'm going to come over there and get you. And so anyway, and then we had to saw it off, and we piled the wood there. But anyway, it was like having a little bit of death hanging over me when I realized I'd waited too late. Daddy was coming home. I didn't have the wood box full. I'd try to scrape around, find something to get in the wood box to make it look like it was full, and saw like rip. I mean, just to get the wood box full. So, to do away with that death-like feeling. Well, this is what God's saying. When you separate yourself by me, by sin, then you're walking